That's their biggest installation. No, there's a little thing that's against
I know it's steering the right direction.
yeah, that's what I'm not like, yeah, well.
Right, good morning everybody. We're a little late, but our time is not set in stone. Thank you very much everyone for coming today. My name's Sarah Royal. I'm actually from the Birmingham Open Spaces Forum, but I'm here today with my national hat on because I'm from the National Federation of Parks Spaces. Yes, lots of hats. So I'd like to start by introducing Stephen from Coventry University, who will just do our housekeeping for the day. Over to you, Stephen.
Morning all. Morning. Welcome to Coventry. City of Peace and Reconciliation, of course, very much in the news at the moment. And welcome to Coventry University on behalf of our Chancellor, Professor John Latham. Hope you find the day really informative and really enjoyable, and that's the key for these sort of organisations. Housekeeping, we have to do these, of course. The building is a no-smoking building, the whole university is no-smoking, so if you're desperate for cigging at lunchtime, you'll have to move away from the building. Toilets, if you've not found them, are behind you. They're magic toilets, so don't look for light switch, the lights come on.
It knows you're here.
It knows you're there, yeah. Big Brother is watching. Fire alarms, there are no fire alarms planned today, so I'm told. So if we do hear one, it's for real. You need to use the stairs, basically the way you came in, not the lifts, of course. I and various other members of staff will help write you down, and you need to move away from the building, not loiter at the entrance, because you'll get run over by fire engines, basically. Okay, so that is quite important. Move over towards the library, which is a tall building as you came in, the beige coloured brick one, and that's where the count will be taken. Okay. Hopefully you found us okay. I know the ring road can be a little bit daunting. It certainly is for me. But people have forgotten to put their little sticker in their cars, which just sort of gives you the free car parking. Perhaps at some sort of point you can nip out and do so. But that just means that the car park attendants know you're here and know you're legitimate and you get it for free. Please don't explore the building. I know it's very tempting. It's quite 2013, the building. Engineering and computing building. It's built for research. The whole building is a teaching resource. There's clever things like Harrier jump jets and Puma helicopters and racing cars down below. So if you are tempted to try and have a look, please don't, because the security people will feel your collar big time, and you'll find you may be able to get in somewhere, but you certainly won't be able to get out because of the security system. So, stick to the 2 rooms we're in. That would be appreciated. So, hope you enjoy the day, and I'll hand back over to Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. Right. The reason we are here today. We are all from a background, parks and open spaces, and what we're doing in those parks and open spaces, and we all are passionate about it. Now, some groups have got together and formed little forums and are already in contact, but other groups are out there working in isolation. So what we wanted to do today is start by gathering in the people from the West Midlands and start a little network up. It's a little help network. So we could all be in contact with each other, we can all be on an email list together, and we can all help each other out. So a question can come in and it can go out to someone else, and information can go out, and we can start getting a community voice for the West Midlands Parks and Open Spaces gathered in together. Today is just the start. We have a wonderful number of people. If you have a look at your delegates list, We've got groups from all over the West Midlands. There are other groups that are interested, and the Newcastle under Lyme were interested as well. It was just a little bit too far from travel today, but they do want to be part of it. Really? Oh, you are here! Wonderful! I got told that you couldn't make it, but I'm so glad you could. So excellent, sorry, Newcastle under Lyme are here. Thank you so much, you've travelled such a long way. So we have real passion today. In your packs you've got a programme for the day, which gives you a general outline of how we're running the day. There's the delegates list, so you can see who's here. We've got a feedback sheet now. Before you go, I really need you to fill in your feedback sheet and leave it on the desk when you go, because that gives us good information on how we've done, how we can make it better, and what we can do for the future. I've also put together a list of useful websites, which I find useful. There's various organisations. There's a good one of how you can gather data and statistics to help out your funding bids. So that's all on the useful websites. We've got a lovely speaker this afternoon from Voluntary Action in Coventry, who will be doing a half-hour talk all about the funding, what you can go for, what's out there, and he will be really, really useful. So he should arrive at lunchtime. So he'll do a lovely talk for you this afternoon. Use today to speak to someone you've never spoken to before. Someone from outside of your area, because they'll be doing exactly what you're doing, and they'll be just as passionate as you are. So
a little bit about what the grounds team here do. They're the public development people who do this work, and how we are using and have started to use volunteering in what we do, and some of the things we're doing to encourage that. So a little bit of scene setting forward. Okay, I'm going to use a few notes because I've got dates on, and my brain doesn't work as good as it used to with dates. So, Coventry University. It's been a seat of learning since 1843, so we've been here a long time in one shape or form. It turned itself into Lanchester Polytechnic in 1970. Those of you who know anything about motor cars and aviation or are interested in it, Lanchester was a Coventry man made good, inventor, engineer, designer. He made the Lanchester cars. He was the first person to introduce things like disc brakes to vehicles as standard, and then moved into airplane production. So Lanchester, a name we're very proud of, to be associated with. The library, again behind us, is the Lanchester Library. So if you hear Lanchester, that's where it comes from. It turned itself into Coventry Polytechnic in 1987 to actually acknowledge the city in which the Polytechnic was set, and then under the government regulations in 1996 it formed Coventry University. So we've been a university since 1996. Since then it's prospered. We're a modern university of the year. This is the plug for anybody who's got children or who want to come to a university. We've been modern university of the year 3 years running, 13, 14 and 15, absolutely unique amongst universities, and we're the highest placed modern university in the Times, in the Guardian, higher education rankings. So the university is really set its cap, and it's really motoring ahead. A lot of what you can see, this new building is clear evidence of it. As I say, it is a teaching resource. It's totally sustainable. It has things like wood pellet boilers for heating. We use grey water resources for the toilets and those sort of things as well. Obviously, person-sensitive lighting, etc., those sort of things. So those are the buildings. A lot of building going on. You've seen some of it as you've come in, some public realm work which we're involved in. So the outside is actually very important to us. There are around about 26,000 students here on campus at any one time. So you volunteer, think what 26,000 volunteers to do for yourselves. So we've actually got a really good resource here, which we need to try and capture as well. Campus itself, 12 hectares, 30 acres in old money. Round the city centre, those of you who've noticed are interested, our iconic cathedral is literally just over the way. You can see that. We've got a technology park that way, isn't it? Yeah, that way. About 8 hectares, which is all about small and medium enterprises, innovation. and we've got a sports field over at the other side of Coventry, again about 30 acres, and various student villages and accommodation. So there's a lot going on for a very small team of ground staff to work on. So what's important and what's imperative with this, the whole point of that is saying any new build now, as a minimum, has to have 20% open space surrounding it or on it. So there's a very clear statement from the university there saying we acknowledge the value of green space, of public realm, of open space, for the health benefits, the social benefits, the social cohesion, all the sort of things you're involved in and are getting aware of. The open space for this building is rounded. The roof is a green roof. There's an extensive green roof and an intensive green roof on this building. Other buildings have got the sort of similar things. So, yeah, green space is important to us. So, the outside, very important to us. So, what have we been doing, what's been involved in volunteers anyway? The central campus is green flag accredited. A lot of you I know are from parks or associated with parks or green space, but I've got green flag. So, you'll know that community involvement in sustainability and biodiversity are key factors in terms of that. Some of our students have been involved on the central campus and using the campus for teaching and for research. So we have people like our horticultural therapy students who actually use the campus as a teaching aid. They come out with their peer groups and other people and actually practice what they're learning. So and then they volunteer out from there. So that's very important to us as well. We're about keeping on the grass, not keeping off the grass. I spent some years working in Cambridge on the universities there, and of course the tradition there is very much keep off the grass, unless you're the head gardener, of course, and you can legitimately stand in the middle of one of the quads and say to the master or the mistress, get off the grass. Very nicely they do, and apologise, but we're all about using the green space, and again I think that's a key message for yourselves, isn't it? It's about usable green space, meeting the needs of your customers. Okay, so Westwood Way Pond, I've mentioned our sports ground, so 5 or 6 mile away maybe, something of that nature, the other side of Coventry. It's in our sports field. Previously it was a very good example of something that would have been preserved rather than conserved, I think. We set up a project led by the grounds team to take back the pond, and you'll see some information on our notice boards there about what the work we've done. That was done with volunteers, with the grounds team as well, staff and students who were invited to come down, get very wet, get very dirty, but they had great fun. The feedback we had from that was really, really positive and really good. There's a further example, as you look down underneath, there's our interpretation board, which was actually designed and the artwork done by a volunteer as well. Stunning artwork, it's worth a look just for that alone, and that sits just behind there. Do have a look, but that's an example of, volunteering perhaps doesn't automatically have to be put your wellies on and do something hard and physical. You can use people's creative talents, in a way which links into the volunteering. They did clearance, they did paths, they did planting, they built bog boxes, bog hotels, log piles. They all came away very tired, but a lot fitter. Edible Campus on Central is now getting nationally known. That was set up again by the team. Most of what virtually all I'm talking about today has been led by the grounds team and implemented by the team themselves. The impetus for this has all come from the people on the ground doing the work, very, very much so. So massively successful little project. That's all about using the facilities, encouraging people, getting people to come out. This year there's a whole range of different edible crops being grown, and again there's some information on the table out there. We've got obviously a large number of overseas students, so we've grown a lot of, to me, totally unusual, totally unknown vegetable crops and herb crops, which is familiar to the people in the countries where they're grown. And Wendy today, I've already had a lesson from Wendy on how to propagate lemongrass. So now I know that. If you want to know that, speak to Wendy in the break and she'll tell you all about lemongrass. But again, really good example of how we can engage with students and staff and volunteers to get engaged in green space. Bees are in the news everywhere, aren't they? Pollinators, and have been for a few years. We've got students volunteering on campus now, and they're actually doing bee counts for us. There's some research work they're doing as we speak. There's a little bit of information on there. We hope to have a couple of hives next year. We tried this year but didn't succeed on the roof of one of our other buildings on campus with a local beekeeper as well. So who knows, if you come here again, you could have Coventry University honey maybe. But there we go. They're going to do very clever things with apps on phones, which I don't understand, where actually if you see a bee in your garden, if you've already downloaded the app, you can do that, the message gets sent to wherever it gets sent to, and they will send you a little message back saying, the bee you have seen is a solitary bee or whatever, and that obviously provides them with data for their survey. So technology working hand in hand. Horticultural therapy we've talked about. Hillfields allotment, one of the most deprived areas in Coventry, which is one of our neighbours, but we've got a large student population. Food Union from Coventry have started a community allotment up there. We've got ourselves involved in that, and that's all about social cohesion as well. A very ethnically diverse area. A lot of people coming along to those work days, work parties. The guys and girls have been up there and done some hedge work, some heavy work for them, and we're providing ongoing advice. And it's about food growing as well. So, hot off the presses for you, and Wendy doesn't even know this. In fact, nobody in here does this, only me. The university have agreed to grant fund Warwickshire Wildlife Trust to carry out what we're calling a Coventry University Community Grant Project using green space, volunteering, students, staff and community to come up with 15 work party sessions over the next 6 months, again in and around the Hillfields area. And that is all about town and gown. You may recall I say I was working for Cambridge at one time, and there were very clear divisions between town and gown, less so nowadays. But here this is about how the university can be part and parcel of the community. And this little project is a relatively small project, but there's a lot of work in kind going into it, or has already gone into it. There will be 15 sessions happening in the next 6 months in and around the university with a very clear ethos of volunteering, using green space to develop the community cohesion, exactly what we'll be talking about today. So on that note, Sarah, I'll call it a day. Enjoy the day, make the most of it, and yeah, enjoy it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh no!
Before we move on? Any questions? No, that's fine, right? We're ahead of time. So, I'm the IT person as well. Let me move around here. Sorry. I will move on to our next presentation. Right, the importance of community for a green space. Bye. Right, start off, the National Federation of Parks and Green Spaces. A lot of you may not have heard who we are. So first and foremost, this is who we are. I'll move out of the way so you can all see there. We started off a number of years ago by feeling there is a need for the community voice for our parks and open spaces. We've got that need in little areas all across the country, but we felt we needed to bring it together and get a national voice. So a number of years ago, a few of us, we already existed as community forums for parks, got together with Green Space, the national charity, and we said, let's get together, let's get a voice together. And Green Space got us all together, and we formed a voluntary organisation. We started off as the National Open Spaces Forum, and we changed our name to the National Federation of Parks and Green Spaces. It's very long, I know. We might look at something a little bit more snappy as time goes on. So, fortunately, we lost Green Space because they went into receivership a few years ago. So, we were so lucky that Keep Britain Tidy took up the reign of Love Parks. And now we work in really close partnership with the Love Parks team. And we have Nigel here today. Where is he? There he is, there's Nigel from Love Parks here today. So if you've got any questions about Love Parks, please feel free to grab him. So they're a really good partner, and we couldn't do it without them at the moment. Like I said, we've got a constitution, we've got a committee. We meet 4 times a year in Birmingham, and we have about 10 to 15 people turning up from actually community forums across the country. We've got London, Haringey, I will forget loads, but give you a few. Wirral, Liverpool, Birmingham, Stockport, Sunderland, Manchester. We've got a few from around the country, but there's not enough of us, and we need more. We need a bigger voice for the community. What we're trying to do is we're volunteers getting together. We're trying to represent, get more forums out there across the country, get more friends groups to start a forum. We're trying to get the community voice to protect parks and open spaces. We've got a petition out there at the moment. It's on our website. We're using it to try and really push the importance of open spaces and the problems we are all facing at the moment. There's budget cuts, there's loss of staff, and we all know the problems we're facing, and we need to help each other out and get a community voice to make it better, because we can make a difference if we all speak together. I go across the country and speak to groups, help new forums set up. So if you are not already in a community forum, I can help you set up. Come and ask me. I'll come and speak to the rest of your friends groups, and we can look at getting you set up and joining into the network. It's all about helping each other out, getting community voice. What one forum can do, they can help another forum that can't do to do that. If one forum's new, they can speak to an existing forum and say, how have you done that? We could do that. No problem. They'll go, this is how we did it. This is what you can do. So it's all about helping each other. Last year, we had a big input into the State of UK Parks report, which HLF put out there, the Heritage Lottery report. We put out questions, and we made sure the community groups had an input into that report. So government saw the reality of what friends groups wanted to say about the heritage as well. So we're very close with Heritage Lottery, so we do have these contacts out there, and so we try to get the friends group's voice into all these important things that are going on out there. So this is why we need to get together. As I said, it's all about partnership, working together and partnership, very important. The importance of community, we all know this one. I do not have to go into any details about this. We all know a community group brings in money, brings in more people, brings that added value to that park and open space. Stops it being something which is just maybe close mown grass, lollipop trees and not used, into something which has become a passion for the local people. Places where people go to meet, you go to grow things, you go to do activities. We all know how important that is. And these days, that will only happen if there's a community group there with the passion to make sure it happens. Everyone, we're all really busy. We know this. We're all out there. We're all doing it on our sites. And we're all putting so much time and effort into it. But what we've all got to remember is what happens to one site in the area will happen to all the others as well. So if we talk and get to know the other people in the other parks in the area, chat, help each other out a bit, it can be that community voice getting together and what can help out all the parks in that area, help yours out as well. So that's why it's really important that we get together and get the voice together. What affects one of us affects all of us. Oh, slightly squished on there. So that is why we're looking together, and as the Nat said, we go around and speak to groups and say this is why it's important to get all your community groups together to form that forum. It brings together a powerful voice. If one person stands up and says, there's a problem on this site, they get listened to. If that group of people say there's a problem on this site, it could get listened to. If everybody in that town or city stands up and goes, there's a problem with the open spaces, it can't help but get listened to, and it will get acted on. Community voice is the most powerful voice there is at the moment. These are the sort of things that, as a forum, as a community together for your area, it doesn't have to be like a city or a town. It can be an area where you're all together and you are passionate about your sites. We usually find it's good that a forum gets together for an area which is seen by a local authorities area, because then you're just speaking to one local authority. Now they are your main partner. You can't do this without them. But in these days, they can't carry on running the parks the way they have done without you. It is an essential partnership. The council, we find, are there to be the voice, the landowner, that yes, you can do this, or well, no, but how about this? And you are the people who are added value to go, right, we want to do this. How can we do this? Let's go and do it. And that's what it's all about. It's essential. In this day and age, a forum is essential. A community voice is essential for doing things. We can all help each other out. We can all take it forward. And the next presentation, my colleague Emma will stand from Birmingham, and she will tell you exactly what the forum has done, what we've done in Birmingham, and how successful it's been. So I won't go into details about it. Now, we all know there will be community groups out there who are very, very isolated, who are maybe in more of the rural areas, and it may be tricky to get them together to form an actual constituted forum. This is where this network we've got here today will get those groups together. What we're all about on this network today for the West Midlands is to gather in all the friends of groups out there. It's not just friends groups, any community group using an open space. Get them all on this network. So if it is impossible to set up a forum, we can still gather them and we can still help out with this network. That's what we see as essential for taking forward today. So, how to start up and what are the benefits? Those main benefits, I actually asked the question out to the groups on our database at the moment, and that's what people came back with. Sharing information, dispelling the myths and working together. Often somebody will hear something and they'll say, and a myth could start. There may be some truth in it, but what goes out there is not the whole truth. A forum can find out the reality of the situation. This group can find out the reality of the situation and go, no, this is the case, this is the reality of the situation, this is what we're going to do to take it forward. Getting the voices heard, saving jobs, reducing cuts. The community do that. If you want to save your parks department, you're the people to get together, you're the people who can do it. To get started, if you want to start up a forum, come and ask me, I can help you out. We're already doing it in Birmingham, as Emma will show you. Get together a few groups, a few members from your groups who are passionate, and get a little committee together. Ideally, get a little constitution together, get a little bank account together, which is what you're already doing on your own sites. A little bit of extra work, but it's essential, and you can get so much benefit from it. Once you've got that, you can be in a position to say, for your area or your city, we are the community voice for parks and open spaces. You can go along to all those networking meetings out there, you can get your voice heard. You can be in the right place at the right time. Suddenly there may be some funding or some money come up, which is looking at the whole area. You're there to go, we're the community voice for this, yes, we can take that out with you. We can use that money to do X, Y, and Z, and it's really important. There are currently about 55 community forums in existence across the country. We know a lot of them, but not all of them. But we're trying to find out them, and we're working with Love Parks, and they've got their voice out there as well. Last Saturday, I started the East Midlands. And we had exactly this, but for the East Midlands. And we found Derby had a community forum in existence, so we grabbed them in. Nottingham used last Saturday to say, right, I'm using this now, get my groups passionate, and then Eddie Carey, the head of Parks, was going to get all the Nottingham groups together with the help of Love Parks to start them up as a forum. So there are more starting up. So if you're not already in a forum and you want to start one, come and ask me, I can help you set it up. There are new ones starting out there all the time. So you're not going to be on your own. So who is out there? Again, I asked the question on quite a number of our existing forums, and this is what they came back with. You've got new ones, like Glasgow and Doncaster, formed last year. We've got us old ones, Birmingham, we've been going for 10 years. Stockport's been going since 2000. So there are existing community forums out there, which are friends groups who have come together, and it's worked. And they've stayed together, and they've grown, and they've become more powerful. Doesn't matter how many groups are in your area. Yes, in Birmingham we've got 130, but Birmingham is huge. Doncaster, they've got 12. Glasgow, they've got 15. Again, Glasgow is quite big, but they're just setting up. Set up small with who's there. Build slowly from there. Don't worry if you say, well, there's only, say, 5 or 6 of us. It doesn't matter. Get together. It's a strong voice. You can get started. It can be a struggle. Some groups go, whoa, I've lost my chair, and we're about to fall to bits. But if there's enough passionate people, which you find there are with open space groups, you will find somebody else who will go, I'll step in, I'll do that. We can't fall. It's too important with what we're doing. So, and what next? If you have a forum in existence, and I don't know of you, come and tell me, we'll get you on the list. If you want to start one up, if you feel, yes, there's the feasibility, there's the passion, we can do it, let me know. I can help you start up. Get together, get your voice heard. It's strong. You'll find out from Emma how strong it is in a bit. Stay in contact with people. You'll meet new people today. Stay in contact, get to know, share experiences. Stay in contact. We'll sort out by the end of today how we're all going to stay in contact and how we're all going to move this forward as part of our discussions today. Share knowledge, share your knowledge, help each other out, and we'll all be part of a national voice for open spaces. Thank you very much for listening. Do we have any questions? Yes?
How do you sort of hope to engage other groups outside of the friends groups? So you've got like community gardens, you've got volunteer conservation groups, task groups, where you can actually have another voice as well as. So there's countryside sites as well where not all of them are usually they don't always have friends groups, they have sort of task conservation groups.
This is it, yeah.
And not all of them are constituted. So how do you hope to engage them, and how have you done it in Birmingham? Because that's something that we need to know.
Right, the whole engaging people together, you've just got to find out who's out there. What you need to say is you are a voice for any open green space that is interested by the community. So you're not just parks, you're open spaces. You can be nature reserves, you can be that bit of grass down the road, you can be woodland cemeteries. What you need to do is get the word out there and say, yes, come and join us. If they're not constituted, what I try to do is I try to get the groups to look at becoming constituted. At first, it is a scary thing. But if you show the group, give them a model constitution, get them to tailor it to their group, get them to understand they just have to open a little bank account, have 3 of them to be signatories on it, there we go, they're constituted, they can take it forward. If they're not, and they really don't want to be, then they can be part of the forum, definitely, and the forum can help get information out to them, and then hopefully build up their confidence to become constituted. Show them there's money out there to get. If they've got this little bit of paper here and this little bit of organisation here, they can do it. And there's just say yes, come and join us, add them to the list, send them out information, get them talking to you.
Have you had any experience in terms of linking those into an umbrella organisation like Friends, so that they have to be constituted?
They could join up if they're very, very small and they're just a little piece of grass or open space and there's a park nearby. They could become part of that Friends group, and that if that Friends group is happy to be looking at that site as well, that's not a problem. It's all up to the community, and usually people are passionate and happy enough to help each other out. I won't go into too much detail of how we've done it in Birmingham, because I'll leave that forever. Yes, Liz?
Sarah, are you going to do much training in the use of social media? Because that's a really good way of getting to people really quickly and generating a buzz around a particular problem and
Now
finding solutions.
that's where our partnership work with Keep It Tidy comes in. Nigel, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, we've been running some courses, to be quite honest. I mean, what we've done, they haven't been tutorials as such, you know, telling people how to use Twitter or Facebook. What we're trying to do is use it in a broad sense in terms of marketing and promoting parks. We've kind of got a strapline we've adopted for Love Parks, which is promote, improve, protect. And we feel that kind of hangs together. And I think, you know, the challenge for all of us working in parks is really to get the message out there of the benefits and the value of parks, because I think that is the best way we can protect them, is by making people aware of the values to health and education and all these other things. So, you know, social media has got a critical role to play in that, but more fundamentally,
it tends to be young people that
it
use
does,
it, isn't
yeah,
it? And
absolutely.
of our generation.
And that's,
Emma, do you want to come on,
Can I
just
just
say
say-
that?
yeah.
In terms of the question about how social media, I think the really important bit about how we've developed the model in Birmingham and to a certain extent the National Federation, it's about peer-to-peer learning. It's not about setting up training courses. What's been most effective for us is if a group has got a particular question, we will send them out another group who've done social media, who understand social media. And they will sit down over a cup of coffee and go, right, let's get your Twitter account set up. Let's help you do your first few tweets. As we all know, if you actually have to use it, it's a lot easier to learn it as you're using it rather than just learn it in the abstract. And the other thing we've got within Birmingham is contacts with other organisations for whom social media is their speciality. So we can put our friends groups and our kids groups in touch with the groups in Birmingham who specialise in social media. So the whole point about the model of forums, models of networking, is it's peer-to-peer learning. If you have some skills in something, you can talk to somebody else about. If social media feels to you like it's too far out of your comfort zone, rather than say come to a training course, we'll get someone to come and sit with you. So this is the woman who last year before, wouldn't touch a website. She now runs the Birmingham Open Spaces Forum website with one hand behind her back. Then she backs up and she upgrades and whatever. And, you know, by sitting her down with someone who is confident with it, while it was a job that you actually needed to do rather than in the abstract, it's possibly the most effective learning we've got. And I think that's what we want to do, is you are all experts in something, and when you've got a gap, someone else can fill that gap, and that's what we're here for.
That's it. Thank you, Emma. And if there is nobody in your area who has that, see Nigel. He can train up one or two, and then they can take it out to the rest of them. Yes?
Hi. Can I just mention that in most towns and cities, you will have social media surgeries.
Yeah.
And if you do a search for social media surgery for your town or city, these are free to community groups. They are free for you to go along, and you'll learn from the social media surgeon, who will teach you what it is that you want to know about Twitter, about Facebook, about Street Life, about all people different social media resources.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Nigel?
Just to add, really, I mean, much to echo what Emma said, I mean, this, you know, social media and the challenges about growing group membership, I mean, this really underlines and epitomises the value of a forum approach, you know, because it is about this, creating this network. And when we've run events on marketing or promoting parks, you know, the value of that event is partly about the message and training, but it's also about getting groups around the table so they do share. And inevitably, you know, within any event, any training or whatever, we get a spectrum of ability, and it's building those partnerships really between the people who are novices and the ones who are more confident. you know, and it's really heartening to see how things like that can cascade.
Thank you, John.
Okay. I'll give you an example. We Sample Valley Groups have a Facebook page. We set it up as an open page, just to say to you originally, last September. And by December, we had about 220 people who were looking at it, and over 50 or 60 who were commenting. The interesting thing is, the people who were commenting, there were people who we've never met before. Unfortunately, we had a couple of idiots who started doing other things, so it's gone private, but it will be open again. But without us doing anything other than setting up a simple Facebook page, it amazed me. It totally amazed me.
That's good. Yeah, there is definitely value in it.
Yeah, there is value in it.
Definitely value in it.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you. Again, if you think of anything else, feel free to come and grab me at lunchtime. What I will do now, is now I would like to introduce Emma Wolfe. Emma is from the Friends of Cotteridge Park in Birmingham. And Emma is the lady who helped us set up the Birmingham Open Spaces Forum. She has been the chair, and she is now the current vice chair of the Birmingham Spaces Forum. So I would like to introduce, she's a very wonderful lady. You need to listen very carefully to what she says, because she knows what she's talking about, and she can get things moving. So I'd like to introduce Emma Wolfe. Thank you.
Build up. Disappointed at that point.
Do you want me to move it on for you?
Would you?
Okay,
Thank you, because I will trip over myself. It's the split between whether it's my reading glasses or my distance glasses. You're a nice blur, but I can see my nose, and I'm afraid not as fluent as Sarah, so I shall start with some notes. What I'm here to talk to you about is what the OSF has been doing. Oh, the Birmingham Open Spaces Forum, that's a mouthful. Why we set up and how we work. But to start with, I'm going to give you a bit of background on me and where I come from. Next, I go ding. I used to have Disney records, and I used to go ding when you had to turn the page on a record. Like all of you, I started out as a volunteer on my local site. I live across the road from Cotteridge Park, and it is dear to my heart. We started in 1997, which means we are 20 years old next year, which is ridiculous. And I was just a user of the park. I had 2 small children, and when they scream outdoors, it's much better than when they scream indoors. The group got together when there was a threat to the site. I think that's often the way that friends groups get together. There were going to be huge cuts. 20 years later, I just feel like I'm in a bit of a loop. There are huge cuts coming again. And like everyone else, we started with the bins and the benches and the paths, and then we kind of moved on. Cottage is a lovely place to live. It's a big kind of transport hub for the shops, but there's no community facilities, there's no library, sports club, anything like that. So we decided we wanted to use the park to do those activities, but just outdoors. So in the 20 years, we have planted a community orchard, planted a millennium wood, created a forest school, we run forest school programs, we do Christmas events, for sale, community picnics. We now have a music festival once a year, which attracts 5,000 people, which is just ridiculous. And that's the little shrew we found, and some art we've done, and it snows and it's lovely. So that's my background, that's where I come from. I still do 3 days a week in the park, mainly with school visits, because that splits up my week, which the rest of the time is spent sitting in front of the computer. I spent half my life digging for worms with 6-year-olds and the other half in front of the computer. But what we discovered over time is that we were just one group amongst many, and we didn't really know. There were people up the road who were doing what we're doing, and we'd never spoken to them. So we started planning a Spaces Forum. Just a little bit of background, because I think people, I mean you probably do because you're from the West Midlands, but if you talk to people from Birmingham, they don't realise how big Birmingham is. There's over 1 million people. There's 400 places that are called park. But there are hundreds and hundreds of more that are recreation grounds, cemeteries, nature reserves, a lot of huge quantities of open space. And again, that's a picture of Birmingham people don't see. It's incredibly green. If you only go through Spaghetti Junction, you don't know that's what the city looks like. So it's a huge, huge space, and it is a lot of work. There are 130 groups in the OSF. There should be a lot more. We keep on going. We get a few more every year, don't we? We keep getting new ones. And obviously our major relationship is with the City Council, because the vast majority of the spaces in the city are owned by the City Council, but by all means not all. So some of the groups that we work with are on land that's either privately owned or in trust. So what is BOFSA and why? Started out as a entirely voluntary organisation, and then 6 years ago, a bit more, we actually got some money from Esme Fairbank, which paid for Sarah's time, which is fantastic. So 3 days a week, Sarah's job is to support the Friends groups in Birmingham, and it's invaluable support. It's funding, it's constitutions, it's negotiating with the Parks Department, all those sorts of things, which is really handy to know. And we wouldn't achieve nearly what we have without having some paid support. It was set up to give a kind of united voice. I kept mentioning when speaking together, we get heard. There's nothing like persuading the councillors that there are 130 member groups with several hundred members each who are all going to vote, and they're going to vote the way they think will be best for their part. So, you know, just like that. The other thing so there's two main things. One is to be that voice, but the other is to get more and more groups set up, because sites with Friends groups do better. I've got a couple of stats here. Like you have to read them out. We've got a local group who works on a nature reserve, and they, in 1 year, contributed 3,300 volunteer hours. It's probably more now, isn't it? At minimum wage, that's £19,000 they have put into their site, and it's the equivalent of 1.7 additional paid staff. So that's a huge contribution. We also done a bit of research this year, which worked out that on average a Friends group brings in £16,000 in capital to the group. So sites with Friends groups do better, and therefore we want more groups out there looking after more sites. And this is money that local authorities can't get. They need us to bring that money in. Within the Open Spaces Forum, I'm not going to waste your time on this, I'm sure you're incredibly familiar. These are the issues that come up over and over again. Every Friends group we talk to, these are the things that cause them trouble. And this is what we do. We network, we share information, we get together. If someone's got an expertise, they'll do that. If somebody's done something already, they'll tell people how to do it. If you've got a planning issue, if you're trying to organise an event, we'll have someone who's already done that, and they will sit down and they will talk to you. So that's what we do. And as I say, the key bits for us is peer-to-peer. This is about people supporting people, doing what they do. So what we achieved? Well, there's definitely more Friends groups than when we started. There's more volunteers doing more things. Our achievement last year is we've got the groups insured. Birmingham City Council now pays for the insurance of Friends groups working on their sites, which is quite legit. It took us 10 years to get there, mainly because we couldn't find an insurer who'd do it. But the other thing was, the Parks Department were happy with it, but the City Council's legal team it made their little heads spin. You mean you want us to insure people who you're not watching doing it? Yes. Well, we don't have the Rangers to watch them anymore. They've got to be doing this stuff. So we have now got away from the idiocy of us doing work on City Council land that they were telling us how to do. We had to pay for the insurance for it. So, again, by making a fuss for 10 years, we've got there. Hopefully we've done it once. We were involved in the procurement of the grounds maintenance contracts, which is nearly 10 years ago now. And all credit to Birmingham City Council bringing in outsiders into a procurement process. They should be congratulated for the bravery of doing that, because they didn't have to. But it meant that we said, we want park keepers, we want the contractors to be talking to the Friends groups, not just to the City Council. We have undertaken successful campaigns to keep jobs and to keep services within the Park Service. I've heard yet again, we're going to have to go through the whole process of explaining why they want to keep park keepers and rangers and so on and so forth, but we'll do it and they will change their minds. I think the latest one is we're not going to bother cutting the grass. Whatever. Any of it? Never? Fine, I'll sue you when I stand on some glass then. The The other thing that we're really proud of is data collection.